got me shook from the way your body looks. Got me riding hooks, got me feeling like a rook. I don't do it by the book, but for you I'll take a look. Don't know what your mama took, sweet and spicy like a cook, yeah. I'll keep it real, let's make a deal. Buy you a meal if you just let me feel. Get out your heels, grab on the wheel. Back to my place at the top of the hill. Don't have regrets, I know what's next. She need a fresh, I'll be back in a sec. Look at them legs, don't make me beg. Back to the room, let me show you my bed. Touching on your body feels like taking on a drug. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Everything you do, I can't seem to get enough. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Touching on your body feels like taking on a drug. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Everything you do, I can't seem to get enough. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. I could look at you all day, watch the way them hips sway. Love your body so I pray, don't you dare take it away. Can't control what I say, lost my mind cause your frame. Hey girl, what's your name? Lit me up just like a flame. Body in motion, I feel the commotion. Be on you like lotion, I'm honest and broken. I flow like the ocean, I feel you were chosen to fix me, I'm broken. My heart that you stolen, hey. Stay with me, play with me, lay with me. Hate to see when you leave, chemistry feels like it's destiny. I just want you laying next to me, and I really don't want you to ever leave. On your body feels like taking on a drug. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Everything you do, I can't seem to get enough. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Touching on your body feels like taking on a drug. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb. Everything you do, I can't seem to get enough. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling numb.
That song was too short. Still sending out the invitations.
Always do it on my own, so I
got one more to go.
And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best.
All right, so what's going on today? Ali Beth Stuckey and a few other Calvinists said that the Pope's message that people are fundamentally good was unbiblical. Well, guess what? Catholics think Catholics think the Calvinist view that people are wretched and wicked is incorrect. Sorry, Calvinists, you're the wrong ones. We're the right ones. Get over it. You like that? You like that? That's going to be new apologetic style. Just, you're wrong. Catholics are right. Goodbye. No, that is a fundamental difference between Protestants and Catholics. Any fundamental difference between general Christianity and Calvinism. So you'll hear people try to say that it's Pelagian. It's not. You'll hear people say that it's Old Testament thinking. It's not. That doesn't even make sense because we don't divide the Old Testament from the New Testament. Actually, I'm going through heresies right now. I'll have a review up of another Tertullian book soon. Oh, speaking of reviews, the review is finished. I did do the adjustments. I got to edit out some stuff. It's already been recorded. I just have to do the editing. It was 35 minutes. I did a quick edit and AI editing, and it got it down to 25 minutes. I got to go through the individual lines though and make sure that it's where I want it to be. What? There's a few other headlines I wanted to talk about today, but honestly, right now in this exact moment, I can't think of them. It's been a long day, and my wife and I are trying to accomplish something that seems impossible from her end, and it's causing some stress. So I've been a little busy, a little tired. Also, I've been opening at the place where I work, so I've been exhausted when I get home. So I haven't been doing my supplemental job, which I'm supposed to be doing because I need the money. Speaking of which, Patreon. I'll try to put the link this time. I am going to start putting tiers, and we'll start having some Patreon stuff going on. I know that some people don't like Patreon, some people don't like PayPal, but it's what's available to me, man. I'm going to be I might be doing some other stuff as well to earn some extra money through here, through this. You want to call it a ministry? We can call it a ministry if you want it. But anyway, through my nonsense, we will be doing more stuff. Also, my second channel, I do need to start posting reviews on there. I am so sorry I'm not posting reviews of general stuff that I'm reading. We will be doing The Witcher soon. I'm currently reading Lady of the Lake, so when that's done, we will have a new video up on that channel. What else? I am doing the history of the Bible, a book recommended by Dan McCullen on one of his. Is it a TikTok video? Anyway, I am reading that book right now. I'm about halfway through. It's okay. It's not the best book I've ever read on the Bible, and it's actually it's funny. I hadn't heard of that book before because one of the books on my wish list is a commentary by the author on the Bible. So it's interesting that this general overview is by an author that I already had on my list as I wanted his detailed commentary on the Bible. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's get to it. We are going to be doing live splaining, and we're going to be doing. These are actually two of my favorite guys. I love it when they guest on Pints with Aquinas. Honest truth, I kind of wish they would stop going on Pints with Aquinas because I don't really like Matt Fradd's messaging. I wish they would just keep their own channel. But Matt Fradd has bigger outreach, so congratulates to them that they're utilizing that outreach and hopefully building up their channel because these guys are amazing. All right, let's stop hyping them up and let's get into it. And this is going to be on the Vatican's new information. We might, if by some chance we get done with this quickly, we will. That's not the right video. If by some chance we get done with this quickly, we will do Jimmy Akin's analysis of the same one. I don't think we're going to be doing Reason and Theology's explanation because it just wasn't that good. But these guys are always great, and of course Jimmy Akin is always great. So, all right, here we go.
Arm of the Vatican, the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, formerly known as the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, formerly known as the Holy Office. Good times in the way back days. Father Gregory, what do you think is important about this norm that was issued?
There's a third guy in this group. Anyway, this guy's really good, and then there's another one that's really good. This guy sometimes gets lost on the show, but that's okay. It's all right.
What is it? Why do we need it? What's going on?
Yeah. I think part of the reason for which we need it is that they're out there saying, so when people claim to have had supernatural experiences of whatever sort, but the one that they mention with greatest frequency in the document are Marian apparitions, the church wants to equip her pastors and also to equip her faithful to judge those events in light of the revelation which our Lord Jesus Christ makes public and the kind of wisdom, the habitual wisdom that he imparts to the members of his body for discerning, what's going on against the backdrop of the signs of the times. So, we have everything.
And this is important because a lot of, especially when I'm in, not debates, but dialogues with atheists on new channels especially, one of the things that they'll ask is how do you discern between what's a real miracle and what's not a real miracle? Later on in the conversation, they'll relate to that question about how do you discern what's inspired and what's not inspired in the Bible. They'll try to parlay that into that question. But initially, it's just the question of, well, how do you know which apparitions are real, which prophecy is real, all that kind of stuff. The Bible itself has actually a test for how to tell which prophecy is real. But this question does come up, and it's been kind of vague because you have eccentric priest and you have Rad Trad saying one version of how you tell all this stuff is true, and then you have apologists saying another version, and then you have the magisterium being kind of overly vague on what it means, and then if you actually look at the catechism, it doesn't give a really strong answer. So this was a good and important and necessary update for our modern times, because now we have the internet and everybody's spreading their opinion as if it's fact. So here we go.
That we need in order to attain to salvation. We've got Christ and his church and his sacraments, and we got all kinds of good things. But God, in his loving kindness, sends us additional gifts, not as a way by which to supplant the original gifts, but as a way by which to make
I'm
them
petting
nearer
my cat.
or unfold them further in the present setting. So we need to be able to judge those things lest we lose our head, attribute to them inordinate importance, or judge them incorrectly. I think that's kind of
And that's also important. When the church has a stance that there's no new public revelation, that doesn't mean that it's not a popular revelation. It just means that there's nothing binding on the people that cannot be already found in the Bible or through holy tradition. So when a new apparition appears or a new message comes up, it could be held personally but not publicly. So what does that mean? How does that work? How do you know an apparition is real, a vision is real, that it's not just your imagination, not just drugs, not just hallucination, not insanity, not some kind of phenomenon, natural phenomenon?
kind of like the background.
Yeah, it might strike secular persons as quite odd to see a document, about assessing the veracity of supernatural phenomena suddenly appear on the scene in the Catholic world. But for us, it's actually not odd at all, because we actually we anticipate these things. In fact, we anticipate that the Lord would continue to do the extraordinary, to make His name known to us. That the Holy Spirit would be continuing to work in the church, to recognize.
And that's important to note, that we don't think communication has stopped. We don't think God stopped talking 2,000 years ago when the Bible was finished. Or as is the original likes to say, well, 200 years or 100 years or 33 years is not exactly 2,000 years ago. So have it be you. 1,970 years ago. Revelation didn't cease. So we're still talking to God. That is a terrible, terrible pause.
Those events, and to help us discern whether or not they're authentically supernatural. So it's just it's just part of being Catholic. You open up Acts of the Apostles, and this is the life of the church at the beginning of the church, and it makes sense that there would be a continuity, that this would be the life of the church today, that there would be supernatural goings on.
God talks to me all the time, BS. It's probably talking to me right now.
And so the norms in that sense are really intended to guide that discernment, to rely on the Holy Spirit, but to provide some kind of framework for thinking through whether or not something is really a valuable spiritual.
And people are often shocked that Catholics hold that God's still communicating to us. I know that Calvinists get all antsy about it and all upset, and they start calling us Mormons. But considering that Protestants shot off from Catholics, and that Calvinists shot off from Lutherans, and Mormons shot off from them, really, they're the problem. Because, if you think about it, we had the original revelation. Just saying. Lottery numbers is not the kind of thing that he does, BS.
Occurrence, how that
He's
occurrence
not a genie.
should be appreciated, and how to help the faithful.
Also, money is generally a bad thing. It leads to evil. You might want to take a vow of poverty, B.S. Lewis. It might do you some good.
How to help the faithful regarding it. So there were older norms for this, which I think is worth knowing, that there was a set of norms that had been put out in 1978. So this is not something that was just dreamt up, but something that.
My cat is very, very happy with my petting right now, and she's cooing, and she's making little funny faces. So if I get distracted, it's because I'm petting my cat, and she's very happy about it.
Has existed for some time, and that needed revision. One thing that I think is very interesting.
Wow, BS, you got something correct. Congratulations. You can retire now. For those that don't know, he put down, and Catholics are an offshoot from the Jews. Actually, we're not technically an offshoot, we're grafted in. So that's a slightly different thing. Grafting in, I wouldn't call it offshooting. Yeah.
Are the possible conclusions. Because when we encounter apparitions or supernatural phenomena.
I got to blow my nose. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back.
Are you having trouble trying to keep up with your professor?
Hold on. That wasn't on purpose. That was not on purpose. That was accidental. Give me a second.
Binary. Either
I gotta go blow my nose.
Obvious and abundantly clear that it's from the Lord, or it's a hoaxer doing a magic trick that we could disprove easily. So what do you think about some of these alternative possibilities that are included in the document?
Yeah. Well, I think against the backdrop of the earlier document, in which there were 2 or 3 judgments, so fancy language that I will probably pronounce incorrectly, but you have constat de supernaturalitate, which is a judgment of the supernatural nature of the events, or you have the non constat de supernaturalitate, which is like we can't make a judgment as to the supernatural quality of the events, and then constat de non supernaturalitate, which is it's not supernatural. There's nothing going on here, and it ought to be avoided. But those judgments were kind of judgments about the nature of the thing, so they're kind of like speculative judgments in the sense that like they're saying what is and what isn't. Whereas the present judgments that we have are more practical judgments. It's more so the judgments of how we should comport ourselves given the data. So they tend to be more a matter of kind of organizing cult. So there's a sense like if these things are true, then we should see the gospel proclaimed, sins forgiven, masses offered, sinners reconciled, like things like that. So we should see good fruits. And on the basis of those good fruits and the order, which reigns in the place where the cult is hosted, we can make judgments like, yeah, it seems like that's good, or probably good, or maybe I'm a little nervous, or super nervous, or probably not, and then definitely not. So the 6 judgments.
Those are very technical descriptions. Yeah,
exactly. You have to be able to
proceed with care.
Yeah, you have to be able to hear the indrawn breath of the church's pastors, and then you know exactly where it stands. So you have these 6 judgments here, nihil obstat, which is the one that they make the most of in the introduction to the document, which just means no objection. Basically, like.
So this, if we do watch Jimmy Akin's take on it, he does a really good explanation of this. I don't know how well Gregory is going to do, but yeah.
Continue on, carry on. And then
So they kind of changed the rulings now where they're not directly affirming that a particular vision or interpretation is true. They're now just saying that this particular vision or this particular interpretation doesn't go against what the church teaches. So you're welcome to believe it if you want to, but it's not necessary for your faith.
There you kind of get higher and higher degrees of suspicion, or maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it, but a greater expression of pastoral solicitude and of caution or circumspection as it concerns the prudence of the church's judgment. So, yeah, I think that's basically it.
I think that spectrum is helpful because, of course, it's a great temptation to want an answer right away, to be enthusiastic, right? When something comes our way, we expect, as I was saying, we expect to see God at work and God at work in the church today. And based on the patterns of past apparitions, we expect to see God at work in unexpected ways. So shepherd children, remote towns, those are kind of hallmarks, I would say, of Marian apparitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something...
Beatrice, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing? I know sometimes you say you're working. Are you doing art, or like you're actually at your job, or are you writing something? I'm actually curious about what you do when you're watching my show. I know that you watch it in the background, so I'm just kind of curious.
Something that can direct us is very important. I mean, a lot of this in a legal framework, in a formal way, most of this pertains to the diocesan bishop. So when we're talking about pastors, that's really who we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So that's an interesting quirk that I didn't always realize, and maybe some of the people don't realize. So there's a difference between a priest who's actually in front of a congregation, who's actually a pastor of your church, and one who's just merely a religious person who also happens to be a priest. Maybe he belongs to an order. There's also a difference between a lay person who belongs to an order or a lay person who's also a monk. They're not actually ordained. And there's a difference between deacons and priests. But in the line of priesthood, there's a difference between your bishop, who's actually in charge of you, and the priest, who you can kind of think of as the shepherd boy, if you will. And then the deacon would be like the buddy who helps out the shepherd boy, or like the go-between. So one's more functional and one's more necessary. But you're actually, as a Catholic, underneath your bishop. You're not completely underneath your priest. So if the priest says something stupid and the bishop contradicts it, you go with the bishop, not with the priest. Get it? But the priest is the one who's directly in charge of your pastoral care. He's usually the person who's going to be your spiritual advisor for the most part if you're a lay Catholic. It's rare that you're going to get like a cardinal or a bishop to be your spiritual advisor. So just FYI, just to let you know. And there are directors and spiritual directors, and there are other functions in monasteries, and I forget what nunneries are called. I know they're called something. But anyway, that's different than what you're going to get with as a layperson. The person you're going to face most often are not these guys on YouTube. You're going to be facing a priest. And if you can somehow get a hold of your bishop, congratulations, you have way more sway and ability to talk to people than I do, because that's a rare thing.
Us as the faithful, Father Gregory, what do you think is a good response to hold, or a good posture to hold towards apparitions and supernatural phenomena broadly?
Yeah, I think so. I would say preliminary point, primary point, secondary point. Preliminary point is, like the analogy of faith or the hierarchy of truths. It's good to keep a sense of balance. So there are things that are more important, and there are things that are less important. The things that are more important are the Trinity and the incarnate Lord. The things that are less important
Trinity and the incarnation of Jesus Christ
are the things that hang from them. Does that mean that they're unimportant? No, it just means that their importance is relative to that which is most important.
So, well, you have to believe certain biblically listed things as a Catholic, mostly about Mary, and the Trinity, because the Trinity, the word's not actually in the Bible. When it comes to things like praying the Rosary, that's not a required thing as a Catholic. There's no particular saint you have to pray to or have to devote yourself to, and there's no particular angels that you have to have information of. Whenever they do that in movies, that's really stupid, because that's not a requirement. You can be a Catholic and know nothing about any of the saints. I know Eastern European Catholics take it a little bit more strictly, but in the West, most Catholics just go to church. That's it.
So I think that our life of faith will sometimes have peculiar expressions or particular emphases, but it should always have a kind of balance, proportion, symmetry. Primary point, Christ. Those things are good where Christ is proclaimed, and you got to cling to Christ if you're going to attain to heaven. We want to attain to heaven, so let's cling to Christ. And like Marian apparitions, it's often the case that.
So like the Shroud of Turin is not it's not a make or break thing for a Catholic, and it shouldn't be, regardless of what apologists say on YouTube.
That Our Lady just testifies to the saving power of her son, so like party on, let's go. And then secondary point, it's like, yeah, but if something's going on in the here and now, why not? Well, people have 17 reasons why not. They're like, yeah, you could totally get caught up in it or swept away by it and da da da. Okay, that's true, which is why the judgment of the church's pastors is so helpful. But it's like, if Our Lady is appearing, suppositionally, hypothetically, it's for the people of this time and place. We are the people of this time and place. So it stands to reason that this is for me. So this is a peculiar way in which God is accommodating his salvation to us in the here and now with a particular solicitude for.
By the way, how's this camera angle working for you all? I could make it more straight on like it used to be. I could switch to a GoPro and I could do different angles. How's this working? I really like this angle, but your all's opinion are more than welcomed and appreciated.
Us in the here and now. So it might be worth attending to. Are you going to lose your soul if you don't? No. You're going to lose your soul if you don't attend to Christ and believe in accord with the hierarchy of truths, the analogy of the faith as it's so stated, and make use of the sacraments as he disposes them. So yeah, I think balance, Christ, and why not?
My team managed over 200.
BS, if you're listening, how are things going tonight? How you doing?
Thought of apparitions, this might be a poor analogy, but I've always thought of apparitions like icing on the cake. It's not the cake, but it's real nice. And some of them, like certain kinds of icing, I really just have a fundamental objection toward. So sugar cream icing, real cream ice cream, or
yeah.
Oh man, it's just so good. Sorry, lost in thought. Just
I disagree with him. I don't like sugary icing. If a cake's too sugary, I can't eat it. Not just because I'm diabetic, but in just a general sense, it just doesn't taste good to me. Too much sugar ruins it. Although surprisingly, sweet tea, you can go pretty sugary and get away with it. But sugary icing, I'm not a fan of.
Thinking about it, I'm here for it. But if it's too sugary and whipped, like the whipped icing,
no,
not here for it.
Okay,
definitely a problem for me.
Okay,
but that doesn't undermine the whole cake for me. It's just you can kind of scrape it off and move it aside, and investigate the rest of the cake and still hold it. So.
What would be your go-to Marian apparitions? Your faves?
My faves. Well, definitely Lord.
Okay.
Nothing better than Lord. What the Virgin Mary asks of Bernadette is very important. Most people think that like the candles and the processions at Lourdes, the visiting of priests, that those were all just concocted by someone that had watched a little bit too much Disney.
My two favorite Marian apparitions would probably be Our Lady of Guadalupe, just because my church is, I believe, a Marian apparition site for, not my church, my cathedral? No. What's it called? It's not a shrine. Basilica, there we go. The basilica that I attend is Our Lady of San Juan de Valle. So Mary appeared, they built a church, that kind of thing. It is what it is. The other one that I'm pretty big on is Our Lady of Grace, and I kind of like Our Lady of the Kitchen, or the maternal matriarch version of the Virgin Mary. I like those three. So Our Lady of Grace, the kitchen one, and San Juan de Valle. Yeah. So those are my favorites.
And thought, you know what we need is Catholic Disneyland. All of those things are asked for by the Virgin Mary for us to do at Lourdes.
My dad liked Lourdes. That was his favorite. I think it was his favorite. I know there was another one. Oh, Medjugorje. He loved the Medjugorje apparition stuff.
So when you carry the candle, when you come in procession, when you pray the rosary, when priests are there, all of
And my dad was a Marian, and he also was a member of the Knights of Columbus. So instead of doing the Liturgy of the Hours like I do now as an adult, he did Marian devotions. He did a rosary in the morning, and he did a rosary at night before going to bed. He'll still pray the rosary now. There was a point where me and him had a conversation about what proper amount of devotion and veneration is versus worship. We did have that conversation maybe multiple times in my life. And my family is very devoted to Mary. I don't do the Marian devotion stuff. It's just not part of my practice. It's not something that I enjoy. It's not something that I feel comfortable with. But, you know, it is what it is. And looking into it, there wasn't as much depth there as a lot of these Marianites seem to think there is. There's some basic information there about Mary, but beyond that, there's no official church teaching on some of these things. So it's, you know, pull it back a little bit, that kind of thing. But I think it's really good. I think the rosary is really good. I wouldn't put it down. And this declaration was also talking about supernatural and other kind of events, and kind of putting the kibosh on people who were making extraordinary claims on YouTube, especially the Tyler Marshalls of the world, to name somebody.
this is part of what the Virgin Mary asks of Bernadette. You know, especially washing with the water. So
that's right.
Yourself?
I grew up in a family of Marian devotees / as we like to call ourselves, apparition chasers. So I have been to a few Marian shrines that I love a lot, among which is Lourdes. I once rode a moped up into the French Alps to get to La Salette. That was exciting. I spent like 4.5 hours on a moped and like 12.
And my dad did 2 tours of Marian apparitions. 3? Did he do 3? I know 2. He might have done a third. But yeah, he went to France, Italy. I'm not sure if he went to Greece. He went through one of the war zones. I believe it was Croatia. And I think he spent some time in Germany, although I'm not sure if that was just part of his flight. He went to France and he went to Spain, going to different Marian apparition sites. I'm not sure if he's been to the ones in Mexico, just because at the time me and him had tension between each other, so we didn't really talk about this kind of stuff when he was doing these tours. But yeah, I know that you've been to two tours of Marian apparitions. You might have gone to a third.
12 minutes at the sanctuary. I also laid the bike down twice, but don't tell the person from whom I rented it. And then I went to Rudebach in Paris, which is beautiful. And I recently went to Banneux in southern
My father also went to Paris.
Belgium with a squad of people from northern Belgium, from Flanders. So shout out to Jo and Laure and Michael. And
His least favorite part of the trip was that none of these places had AC, and he needs air conditioning. By the way, this is like 30 years ago, just FYI. 30 years ago. 20 years ago.
a big squad there. And then
He went when I was 15. He went when I was like 18. And if he did a third one, he did one like when I was like 22. If he did a third one.
Knock. I was recently in Ireland. Go Knock. But my family, I mean, like my parents led pilgrimages to Medjugorje for like 25 years. So that is the Marian shrine that I visited most. So one says alleged apparitions. The church has said you can visit, but the church hasn't made a judgment as to whether or not it's supernatural.
My dad really liked Medjugorje. He really liked that. He was also part of a group that saw the spinning of the sun. It actually made the news.
So party on, bro.
We'll wait and see. Okay, well, first, thanks, HG, for your word of congratulations there. So HG says, from everyone on the chat, congratulations, belated congratulations on your ordinations. May God continue to bless and guide you. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
That's great. Also,
well, how about we
identified
jump into
himself as
which
from
thing?
the United Kingdom?
Exactly. I mean, excellent. Right? Let's go. I mean, who knows what time it is there?
I for a little while there, when I had a little bit of extra money, I was collecting. Which this is an expensive hobby. I don't recommend this one. I was collecting liturgies, liturgy of the hours, from different countries and nations, and they have different saints. So there's some saints from certain cultures that are not in other cultures and some of them I really liked. There's this one guy who's the patron saint of weightlifting. I was big into that guy. And there's a few other special saints, specifically to the UK, that I really liked, and some to France that I really liked that are not part of the larger church's celebrations of saints. So yeah, national saints, as it were.
It's 1,030,000.
And local saints.
1,030,000. Well, let's jump in. But it's first with some questions from our Patreon supporters. So thanks to all who support the podcast by contributing to us via Patreon. So a friend writes in, hi, Godsplaining staff and fathers. So the staff appreciates that. We have a great team that works on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I have been doing a deep dive in the history of the sacraments. I've been somewhat confused about the difference in timing between the rites for
Because of the short film that I made, I've been getting some people who are interested in helping me out with the channel, mostly in editing and camera work. Obviously, I don't need camera work. I got a stupid stationary thing that I use. But I could definitely use help in the editing and maybe in the production standpoint. I don't know. The film came out and the initial film was bad. So we, as a team, pressured the director to re-edit the film. And the re-edited version was much better. It's like 90% better. And so we released it on YouTube on my third alt channel. So far it's been pretty good. If you guys find it, feel free to watch it and review it.
First Communion and Confirmation. I have heard some explain the reason for the Western timing as resulting from difficulties in travel and large jurisdictional coverage of bishops, etc. I guess my question is, why is the timing still as it is? If the sacraments are what they are claimed to be by the Catholic Church, why withhold them? I guess I've heard the Age of Reason argument, but then still, why would confirmation be separated out from First Communion? Please help this confused Protestant. My husband is Catholic.
I think that's a good question. Darn it.
Satan.
Why are there so many commercials on this one? Oh.
Father Gregory, why don't you take...
Somebody get me more income so I can afford to buy this, whatever the premium version of this is.
History.
Yeah, sure. So, right, you have the ancient rites of the church, which are preserved for us and communicated to us. in the rite of Christian initiation of adults, or it has now become known, not RCIA, but OCIA. And there was a years-long process whereby a catechumen was initiated into the rites of the church, which would involve blessings and exorcisms and anointings and all kinds of cool things in preparation for the sacraments of initiation. As infant baptism becomes more popular, then you begin to have the question of the timing of subsequent sacraments, and the age of reason is insisted upon for all sacraments subsequent to baptism. In general, the age of reason is required for all sacraments because they require the faith of the recipient. It's the necessity of baptism, which makes it possible to baptize from the earliest moment of a person's life in the faith of the church, as witnessed to or testified to. But then it's at the Reformation, First Holy Communion, 7th century. It's only but then second thing is not like their adulthood, right, and their kind of spiritual soldiery, as it were. So there's a sense that there's a kind of fittingness that it be celebrated.
Opinions on this? Power could be delegated, whether that power could be delegated. You think we should be intentionally discussing, or is it best to go with the flow and allow topics to come up organically, or a bit of both? Oh boy. Well, Sergio, I have lots of opinions on this, and some of them are just great because obviously I'm a celibate priest, so it's always fun to just weigh in. But I've been with a lot of couples, helped them prepare for marriage, and seen a lot of young people grow and get ready for their marriages. So I would say this: there are a lot of questions that are really important.
On a living, breathing thing, animal that is. Is it like that it's grown in? I don't actually know.
In Indianapolis at the Eucharistic Congress, and we are going to a live episode. So stay tuned for more details about that. So we'd love to meet you if anyone's going to be there. Make sure I accept.
There we go. Perfect.
I think that this very resistance is convicting. It's a sign of self-love, and therefore reason.
I'm just checking to see if they're talking anything more about the topic at hand. If not, we're going to switch over to Jimmy Aiken. Let me see if anything's here.
Is due to God's grace, but we send ourselves to hell. If we choose God, isn't that our decision? Love the show.
Yes. You have intuited the proclamations of the councils of Kiersey and Valence. We salute you for it. Non-parallel trajectories. If you go to heaven, it's by God's predestinating grace. But God who created you without you will not save you without you. So you have to consent to and cooperate with it at some level. And we refer to that as supernatural merit. So you can merit your salvation by God's predestinating grace. But then when it comes to damnation, it's only by having rejected that offer of grace. So God doesn't predestine to hell in the way that he predestines to heaven. That's a huge question, though.
Yeah. Sorry. St. Therese offers a beautiful image for this in Story of a Soul. And she talks about the importance of taking the step. So you have to, in order to take a step, you have to begin to lift your foot. And there's something there. There's something there to understanding what our ascent to God's grace looks like. There's an important movement of our will that makes it possible for God's grace to do everything that it's going to do for us. Retaining sins.
It looks like they don't have anything else on that proclamation, but let's hear this last part and then we'll flip over to Jimmy.
Is it bad making multiple general confessions? So I think one thing that's at stake is the Church is a global church, and one thing, an issue is that in countries outside the United States, certain sins are reserved. For example, so Pope Francis is very keen on expanding the power to absolve someone who is procured an abortion, for example. So part of what the Holy Father is doing is he's broadening some things that are technically restricted according to the law of the Church, and that in places that have different practices than the United States. So that's part of what's behind it. But as far as, is it an issue letting penitents leave retaining sins? Absolutely. Think of the old image of the Baltimore Catechism. If you go into the confessional,
I'm kind of glad I never read or was influenced by the Baltimore Catechism, because it seems to mess a lot of people up. I know these guys like it, but yeah, I'm glad I never read it.
With a mortal sin, and you leave the confessional having not confessed that mortal sin, you in fact leave the confessional with two mortal sins, because you've now also abused the sacrament of penance. The priest doesn't know this, though. Of course, only the penitent knows that, and only the penitent can judge that. Making multiple general confessions to say that, that's a particular spiritual practice, and there's a time and place for it, and some people find it more beneficial, and it's done, multiple times throughout the life. There, I would just caution against scrupulosity. It would be unseemly, it seems to me, to be making a general confession every month. Something would be out of place with that.
I don't have an opinion there. All right, I'm going to go to a live screen, and then we are going to jump to Jimmy of Acon. Okay. How y'all doing tonight anyway? Anyone, anything going on? Anyone have any topics or anything you guys like me to talk about? Again, this is going to be another short stream, so we're not going to go too long. Be on their videos or in their live? Jimmy has kind of changed the way that he does his channel, so it's a little bit harder to find his videos now. Okay, here we go. Found it. Got it. And I hate commercials. Yay. Okay. Here we go. All right, let's jump into it. And I see some other people are joining. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you here.
Howdy, folks. I'm going to be doing a detailed Mysterious World episode on this topic, but with the lead time in our production schedule, it won't be out for at least a couple of months. So I decided to do a shorter, quick video now, just to give you my impressions. On Friday, May 17th, the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, or DDF, released a document titled Norms for Proceeding in the Discernment of Alleged Supernatural Phenomena.
I'm more interested in the supernatural phenomenon part, to be honest, than the apparition part, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
In the document was a note by Cardinal Victor Fernandez, the head of the DDF, introducing it and explaining the reasons why it was written. This document revised, replaced, and expanded a previous document issued by the then Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, or CDF, from 1978, which we've covered in a previous Mysterious World episode. Apart from matters of detail, there are several notable shifts in the approach that the new document takes. These include the scope of the document, a procedure for greater transparency, and a new classification system for apparitions and other supernatural phenomena. When it comes to the scope, the 1978 document dealt only with presumed apparitions and revelations, while the new one expands coverage to phenomena such as alleged apparitions, visions, interior or exterior locutions, writings or messages, phenomena related to religious images, and psychophysical phenomena.
I love that. I love it. I love it that we're expanding our reach of our opinions. I like it.
These also include reported Eucharistic miracles. The greater transparency is illustrated in two ways. First, when the 1978 document was released, it was distributed only on a confidential basis and was meant strictly for bishops and their associates. However, it leaked, including on my website, jimmyakin.com, and it was only published officially in 2011, 33 years after it was originally released. By contrast, the new document was immediately placed on the Vatican website, and a press conference introducing it to the public was held.
I think that's a good
Second,
move.
when the
More
1978
transparency.
document was in force, local bishops were invited to submit their findings and conclusions about apparitions to the CDF for review.
Oh man, his teeth got to be so jacked. That's a lot of tobacco. Don't get me wrong. I smoke cigars. I do. I'm not going to say I don't, but I don't smoke them very often, and I get my teeth cleaned regularly. That just doesn't seem good. Although I do drink non-caffeinated sodas, not non-caffeinated. Sorry, non-sugary sodas. I do like caffeine, so that stains your teeth too.
Review and approval before they announce them. However, when the congregation approved the bishop's planned announcement, it would ask that they keep its name out of the matter, presumably to keep people from exaggerating what the CDF had done and announcing the apparition as Vatican approved or...
And that's one of the problems when you see a lot of these, I would say cringe, not cringe, these lot of, what's the word? People on the edge. So it sounds like cringe, but it's not cringe. Anyway, when you see these kind of fringe priests and radical traditionalists and extremists and fundamentalists within the Catholic Church or just outside of the Catholic Church who still make claim to Catholicism, they will make it sound like all these apparitions and all of these phenomena are approved by the Church. They're not. So this new way, and just to be clear, I've only heard what the apologists have said on it yet. I haven't read the document. But this new way of interpreting apparitions and phenomenon and miracles in general is going to be a much better approach, because now you can't say that this is official church teaching. You can't even imply it because now it's no longer a mystery of whether or not the church has an opinion on it. They're going to just put a stamp on it and say this doesn't obstruct. This sounds a little weird. This is not great. This does obstruct. Nope, this one's not allowed. So like this was problematic. This was not allowed. So like it's good. It's a good news system.
Vatican condemned. Henceforth, there will be more transparency. Cardinal Fernandez explains now, when the bishop makes his decision public, it will be stated as in agreement with the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. At the core of the new
Now,
document
this might slow things down, but that's okay too.
is a new way of classifying supernatural events. The list presented is not exhaustive, but the church's conclusion
Does he look scared or does he look scary? Which one do you think?
will usually be expressed.
Be honest. You're walking down an alley and this guy pops up out of nowhere to talk to you about Jesus. Are you scared or are you comfortable? Be honest, BS.
In terms of 6 categories. Category 1 is nihil obstat, which means
And he's a tall dude too. He's not small.
nothing obstructs. It is used for phenomena that are connected with many signs of the action of the Holy Spirit.
Well, I don't know if he's actually tall. I know that's what people have said. People have said he's tall.
Spirit in connection with the phenomena, and so far, no aspects that are particularly critical or risky have been detected.
BS, you've asked me about this before, so I hope this video is helpful to you, this today's live stream.
Category 2 is preoculus habeatur, which means it should be held before the eyes. Keep your eye on it. It's used for phenomena that have important positive signs, but also some aspects of confusion or potential risks. Consequently, it says doctrinal clarification might be necessary in these cases. Category 3 is curiosity.
I'm interested what doctrinal clarification would look like in these cases.
Which means it needs to be attended to. Really do something here. This is used for phenomena that have various or significant critical elements, meaning negative ones, but have nevertheless spread widely and are connected with verifiable spiritual fruits.
So this could be something like Matagorgy, which is not sanctioned, even though a lot of people make it sound like it was. So this could be applied maybe to that, maybe this level.
In these cases, the bishop is not to encourage the phenomenon and to seek out alternative expressions of devotion and possibly reorient its spiritual and pastoral aspects. Category 4 is...
I wonder where the Lady of the Amazon would fall on this one. Our Lady of the Amazon.
Which means under mandate. It is used for phenomena that are rich in positive elements, but that are being misused in some way, such as by a person, a family, or a group. Misuse might involve financial gain, immoral acts, or defiance of the local bishop.
No matter what you're...
Commercial, guys. For those who are just listening in, this is just a commercial. Hold on. And we're back.
Category 5 is prohibitor et obstruator, which means hindered and to be blocked. It is used for phenomena that have some positive elements, but also have very serious critical issues and risks. The bishop is to declare publicly that adherence to this phenomenon is not allowed. And category 6 is declaratio de non supernaturalitate, which means declaration of non-supernaturality. It is used for phenomena that the bishop has found to be not supernatural based on facts and evidence that are concrete and proven, such as a visionary admitting that they lied, or witnesses detecting fraud, or evidence of mythomania. That is an...
I'm curious if they have I like mythomania, that's a good word. I'm curious if they have one, though, for a declaration for one that they would find as harmful, demonic. So evidence of supernatural, but evil supernatural. Something like the Saint of Death in some Latin American cults.
Excessive tendency for lying or exaggeration. You'll notice that what's missing from that list is a firm declaration that the phenomenon is supernatural. Not even the nihil obstat implies that that is the case.
Which I think is a good move.
Under the new norms, a phenomenon can still be declared supernatural, but it will require a special act of the Pope. This has to do...
Good move.
with the reasons for the new norms. In his accompanying note, Cardinal Fernandez explains that the previous tendency to conclude that phenomena were either supernatural or not known to be supernatural had undesired side effects. If a phenomena was declared to be supernatural, it, in his words, effectively oriented the faithful to think that they had to believe in these phenomena, which were sometimes valued more than the gospel itself. And I'm sure we've all met some apparition enthusiasts who are more excited about new Marian statements than they are about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yes, that has happened.
Fernandez said that the lack of public clarity also contributed to confusion about the status of apparitions, and he noted that the need to establish an apparition is supernatural in order to give it some form of approval led to extensive delays. Before committing the church, or even a local diocese or region, to the idea that an event has been established as supernatural, special precautions were needed. You needed to do a super thorough investigation that took a long time. Fernandez notes, the expectations of receiving a declaration about the supernatural nature of the event resulted in very few cases ever reaching a clear determination. In fact, he says, since 1950, no more than 6 cases have been officially resolved, even though such phenomena have often increased without clear guidance and with the involvement of people from many dioceses. Therefore, he says, one can assume that many other cases were either handled differently or just not handled at all, which is pretty bluntly honest to the Cardinal. The new nihil obstat classification is meant to allow a more expeditious way to provide a form of approval for an event and recognize the action of the Holy Spirit in things connected with it without expressing any certainty about the supernatural authenticity of the phenomenon itself, and thus without implying to the faithful that they're obliged to believe it. Of course,
All good news. So someone says something miracle-ish happen, and there's nothing in the miracle or in the apparition or in the vision that detracts or contradicts biblical teaching. We can say it's fine to believe, but we don't know if it's real or not. It takes a declaration of the Pope to say that it's an actual event, but you're welcome to believe what you want on the topic. Sounds good. I like this.
Declaration that an event is not supernatural still exists, and it is the 6th category of the ones for regular use. In addition, the 4 new categories reflect the complexity of the evidence regarding an event and the effects it's having in the church. Category 2, Prae Oculos Habeatur, is for events that are favored by good evidence, but with some reason for concern, so a full nihil obstat isn't warranted. The opposite is Category 5, Prohibetur et Obstruatur, where there are very serious problems and only a few positive elements, yet a full decree of non-supernaturalness isn't warranted. In the middle are 2 categories for events where there is a difference between the event itself and the impact it's having on the church. In Category 4, Submandato, the event itself has a lot of positive elements, but some particular group is misusing it. The reverse is Category 3, Curiatur, where there are significant problems with the event, but despite that, the event has become widely popular so that a ban that could upset the people of God is not recommended, but some kind of healthy reorientation is desired. In addition to the things that Cardinal Fernandez names as the reasons for the revision of the norms, I strongly suspect that the creation of this category, Category 3, was one of them. In 2010, Pope Benedict XVI instituted a commission to examine the popular but controversial Medjugorje apparitions, and the commission reported its results to Pope Francis in 2014. In 2017, Pope Francis stated that the initial Medjugorje apparitions deserved further study, but was very doubtful about the later ones. This meant that it was hard to give a supernatural or not supernatural evaluation of Medjugorje, and the Vatican has not made an official statement in all the years since. It thus would make sense, if the current category system isn't working, to review and revise the categories used to classify events like Medjugorje. And the Curator category sounds like it was designed for the conclusions that the Vatican reached about it. Consequently, I suspect that an announcement on Medjugorje may finally be on the horizon. It's important to note that the new norms do not change any classifications of apparitions that currently exist. Those declared supernatural or non-supernatural still have the same status, though it is possible they could be revised in the future. Without naming it, Cardinal Fernandez mentions how the status of the Ida Peterman, Our Lady of All Nations apparitions went back and forth over time, with a negative judgment finally being reaffirmed in 2020. Further, the criteria for nihil obstat note that particularly critical or risky things have not been detected about the phenomenon at least so far, implying that the ruling is a provisional one that could be changed if such things do emerge. I think
I don't know how I feel about provisional rulings, but still sounds good.
that on balance, this new set of norms is promising. It has a more sophisticated approach to the complex nature of reported supernatural phenomena, how the evidence can be mixed and change over time, and what their impact on the church can be. It also strikes me that it may encourage the faithful to have a healthier appreciation of such phenomena that is open but discerning, without automatically assuming that an event is obligatory for belief in all its details.
B.S. Lewis is saying it sounds like Harry Potter stuff. Aiken is House Slytherin. I would say that Harry Potter and a lot of fantasy and supernatural stuff steals ideas from the Catholic Church. They like to copy our structure. I notice they don't copy the structure of the Orthodox Church very often, which is the more mystical side of the church. So it's odd that they don't actually go toward that. They go more toward the Catholic Church structure. In fact, most fantasy novels do that. Even in something like Dune, which is based on Islam, they use Catholic terminology and Catholic ideas to make for the basis of their Islamic thought experiments. So I do think that's an interesting observance. Those who are more apologetically inclined would say something like, and I know this because I just read it, that the devil likes to strike out against the truth. So yeah, I can say apologetical things too.
Or that it's to be completely and utterly rejected in all its details. It seems to me this is a reasonable attempt to implement St. Paul's dictum about prophecy from 1 Thessalonians 5 to test everything and hold fast to what is good.
True.
If you like this content,
What is
please
true?
do all the YouTube things that will tell YouTube to...
Okay. All right. That's it. That's my 1 hour for tonight. Let's see. What are we doing tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'm going to try for an open room. I was actually supposed to be out with a friend today, but he didn't text me. What's going on? What's going on? Did you watch Fallout? Yes, I did watch Fallout. I liked Fallout. BS, did you play the game? The Fallout series, I had 3 problems with it. One is that there was a little too much woke sprinkled into it, and it broke some of the immersion in the first episode during the flashback scene. So I think they should have acknowledged real world politics during the flashback, because that's the anchor to the real world. And then once it gets into the post-apocalyptic fantasy, then you can have all the real world problems disappear and you can have your fantasy utopia. The other issue that I had with it is that the first episode introduces elements that contradict the last episode, or vice versa. The last episode contradicts the first episode, but the first episode and all the following episodes match, or the episodes after the first episode and the final episode match. So if you want to get rid of the pilot and just go from the second episode on, the story fits perfectly. Just know that there's a few elements in that first episode that don't make sense with the conclusions and archetypes of the last episode. Also, there's one character that is not properly explained. I won't get into that with you, so you don't get spoiled. But there's one character that is improperly explained, and if they don't address it for the next season, that will really piss me off. I think the female character was awesome, and I think the ghoul is awesome. The Brother of Steel character, I thought the actor was amazing. I thought they underwrote him and undercooked him. I think if he is in the next season, he needs to have a much stronger arc where he has more agency in the decisions that he makes, and also more consistency of his character. BS. Any other opinions on Fallout before I go? And then I'm going to go ahead and play the music. So I'm going to keep the screen up. I'm going to start the song. Once the screen is down, I'm going to stop responding, okay? But if you have any more to say, let me know right now.
die with no regrets, live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, when you hit your teens, life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it.
Have a good one, buddy.
The only thing I know
Love you all.
is to love
Good
what
night.
I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I
God
put
bless.
it out as hard, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once, I'm gonna show you all